Hi everybody, it's Laura speaking. So this is just a very quick video about something that I saw on Twitter and I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. So a friend of mine, Albion Forever, tweeted this yesterday and I'd like to highlight this article because it's just absolutely atrocious. It's not atrocious like The Guardian, it's a lot more subtle, but I'll show you what I mean. So the article is about the two Scandinavian girls, Louisa and Maren, from Denmark and Norway, who, as we know, were murdered and beheaded in Morocco recently. And there's a few things in the article that are worth pointing out. So the first one is the fact that they say that they've arrested a Swiss national in connection with the killing of the two girls. There's no other mention about the ethnicity of the perpetrator, the person that they've arrested, but obviously by using the language Swiss national, it makes you think that it's a European. Also, in addition to that, they've used the phrase found dead, which I really hate it when somebody's been murdered and they just say died or found dead, because it's like, what, did they die of old age? And they do it with terror attacks in Britain as well quite often. They always say this person died. And when I write articles for Defend Europa, I always like to say this person was murdered, because they wouldn't have died if it wasn't for the murder. So I find it really disrespectful when people say this person died when it was actually a murder. And it kind of reminds me of the BBC article that came out a little bit closer to the time when the murder of these two girls was revealed. And obviously they'd been beheaded, and the BBC just said that they were found with cuts to their neck. I mean, they were beheaded, they had no head left. It's so disrespectful. Another thing in this article is that it says that 19 other men have been arrested in connection with the case, including 4 main suspects who had pledged allegiance to Islamic State in a video made 3 days before the tourists' bodies were found. So even though they've pledged allegiance to Islamic State, police and domestic intelligence spokesman, I think that's pronounced Boubka Sabik, described the 4 men as lone wolves and said that the crime was not coordinated with Islamic State. How can they be lone wolves if there's 19 people that have been arrested? And we also get people saying quite a lot that the label lone wolf is only used when it's a white person, but they use it all the time for non-white terrorists. So here's just a few screenshots of an article I found where they were complaining that only white people are called lone wolves, when actually, I mean, look at all these aren't lone wolves, this is all Islamic terrorism, and they use it for these people as well. So if you'd only read this article about this murder in Morocco, then you wouldn't know anything about how brutal the murder was, or how she cried out for a mum as she was beheaded, or how I think one of the men spat on her severed head and said something about this is what we do to your gods or something like that. And it really annoys me how they downplay the brutality of these murders. But the thing that I find the worst in this article is the fact that they've said that it's a Swiss national, because it implies that the person's a European. And the BBC also released an article about the same arrest that said that it was a Swiss Spanish national. Again, there's no mention of whether this person's Moroccan or whether he's a Muslim or anything. They keep it very kind of private. And I don't know the ethnicity of this guy, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that he probably wasn't European. And even if he was, it's important to note that the media rarely mention the ethnicity or nationality of the perpetrator unless they can pin it on a white person, like they've implied in this instance. Or they'll mention the ethnicity or religion of somebody if it's a good deed that they can talk about. So here are a few examples. So if you're a terrorist, then you're British, even though these people aren't British. But if you're doing charity, you're a Muslim. And that's just the awful bias of the BBC, The Independent, The Guardian. This article that I've discussed here is by The Telegraph, who sometimes aren't as bad as those other news vendors. Sky's another bad one as well. But they're just going down that track like all the other ones. So that's kind of it really. I just wanted to show a few examples of the language that the media use and how the bias is just so awful. And I know that Defend Europa's readers are very clued up when it comes to the media bias, but I still think it's important to highlight it at every opportunity. I don't want it to become the norm and we just accept it. So on that note, that's it. Happy New Year everybody, and all the best for 2019.